In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. And the most advanced. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, my beloved species. Hello, reality. In the presence of the original power of this sector and all sectors of existence, I will march towards the true expression of the title of today's lecture, Are We Where We Are? And the field of activity that remembered itself through the human form. It is 2025, December 16. I was born on December 17, 1991. And tomorrow it's my 34th birthday. And that comes down to exactly 12,419 days. 12,419 days I have been alive on this planet. And so I guess in this episode, not only am I sharing a title of a symmetrical sentence, Are We Where We Are? But I also find myself being able to tell you what I have realized in these 34 years, in these 12,419 days of being here. That means 12,419 times I have logged into reality and logged out. Therefore, if Earth was a video game, so far I have played it on a regular daily basis 12,419 times. And just like video games. I don't know if people have an experience of this. The older generation probably doesn't, but the younger generation does. In multiplayer online games, you find your avatar, you find your character in an online map with others, and that map has certain conditions. In other words, you find yourself in a conditional reality. So I log into my gaming account. I go in there. I have access to my character. My character has access to level like maps of the game. Okay. And when you go into those maps, each map has been designed with specific protocol. Like you got to go solve a mission, a quest. You get items. You buy armor. You pretty much function that way. You're responsible for a fictional pixelated self's destiny in that video game. And because it's controllable and you can make mistakes, you know, why do kids like video games but they don't like actual war? Because the character responds. Because when you lose, you can play again. But to us as human beings, we don't treat this in front of our eyes completely like a video game, but it is very video game like. Instead of 2D pixels, it is three-dimensional and it's made of the periodic table. It's made of elements instead of pixels. And so the characters are born in this world, and what happens when you look at a human life, you are looking at pretty much a human being be born, and until the day they die, they're making decisions and they are functioning. It's a functioning protocol. You know, to me, in this being born in this reality, at first I thought it was about finding meaning, you know, finding what it's all about, trying to make it make sense. And then I realized it's intentionally been designed that you can know a bit of it, but you can't see all of it. And why is it intentionally designed? Because I don't want to get into like cosmological arguments and to explain to you how this world has a system admin, but it does. Okay, it has a host. You think that you're just here, but I feel every conscious organism is sponsored here. I feel that creation is super efficient. Do you understand? It creates a tree that, in some sense, is a nest for a bird, but also provides fruit for the human. So there's multiple functions. When one thing comes to existence, it doesn't just have a value to itself. And that's what you notice in this reality. Existence doesn't have a value to itself. And what's even more beautiful to me is that existence is left unexplored until a conscious agency arrives. Do you understand? That means, I'll give you an example. It's your consciousness is so crucial to how life is being animated that honestly, on some level, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain to you that in 2025, we have in okay, I gotta start from the beginning. So you look at the human position, you know, go look at yourself in the mirror. Look at the human position and ask yourself how you're classifying intelligence. From the moment you open your eyes, reality is a value proposition. That means everything you see, at least in this modern world of being a human being, isn't just enough on itself. It has a value. That means that's not an object, that's a tree. That's not another object, that's a car. Do you see? So you got to understand on the levels you're functioning, your intelligence is functioning. The way I've simplified it in a way that nobody's explained to me is honestly that in front of your eyes, you're in a public existential server. Okay, that means you have a certain access to reality in front of your eyes. But if I tell you to close your eyes right now and imagine, I don't know, imagine the food you ate yesterday, and like imagine that food before you came to eat it, it just hovered in the air. Your mind, your eyes are closed, and yet you can still see, implying that there is a space where activity happens beyond the limitations of the human body. So this whole time we've been rendering our value, we've been judging ourselves based on our physical position, but it has not just been a physical event. Do you know? And the more fascinating thing is that in actuality, we are not we're, yes, we are non-fictional beings, but the meaning this non-fiction has is fictional. Do you understand? Therefore, the dilemma of human beings wondering about, should I find truth or should I generate truth? Do you know, most human beings, when they can't find truth anymore, they generate it. And then they generate a truth. And when that truth is not satisfactory, then they go find truth. And to me, it's hilarious because when I look at human beings, I'm like, man, it's so conditional. In one condition, the person's meaning doesn't satisfy. They have to go find meaning. In another meaning, it's a condition. They don't need to go find meaning. The truth they have generated for themselves is satisfactory. Do you understand? It's like the way that this system works is that you're given an existence, but if you don't maintain it, you don't continue to exist. Okay, so it's kind of like this system where a non-fictional position is being managed through a fictional position. However, the fiction and non-fiction are not you. And the true nature of what is going on here, unfortunately, for 2025 is scary. It's scary for humans now to understand what's going on here. You know, it's scary if you're humanized. It's not scary if you have an ability to perceive in a dehumanized way. Do you understand? That means, like, let's say there's like a bad guy and this villain, super villain, you know, not a super villain. Well, let's say in normal reality, there's a villain, right? And this villain does something bad. You know, let's say like hurts, punches someone, right? Now, I want you to imagine there's a human being watching this, there's a dog watching this, there's a bird watching this, there's a dolphin watching this human punch like another human. And we see that in the reaction of the other animals, they're like, okay, you know, creatures dying in front of us, that's normal. You know, they don't, it's not, doesn't startle the lion when it sees like a human, like attack another human. Do you understand? It might start like, I don't know, the exact animal psychology because they're territorial and it might be something beyond its territory of understanding. Do you know? But I'm telling you, it's a human that sees another human hurt another human and feels it's wrong. So in reality, if human beings begin to wonder not what thought I am, but they begin wondering about their ethical spectrum. Do you know, everybody is on an ethical spectrum? There's a spectrum of ethics and everybody's on it. Do you know? And some person might be like, oh my God, what a good guy. But then we'll be like, okay, from another view, that's unethical. Do you know? Or for example, you could be in some sense someone who believes in religion, in a higher power, but then you're not ethically behaving. Do you understand? And then the question comes down to be honest, the position of reality. I'm telling you guys, I think I don't want to say this is the secret to life, but this is the secret to games. Any game, okay? That your value is based on your position. That means there are games that if you don't understand, if you don't have intelligence in positioning, then in some sense you cannot win in that game. So what's really important, that if you have opened your eyes in a game called life, you have to wonder about your position. And if you at least want to make it, I mean, this is something personal for me, you know, my mind has played this game of like finding reasons why like my moment of being is not important and reasons why it is important. But I'm telling you, I know that when something is important, the soul's response to it is different. You can have somebody be like to everybody a fool. You know, everybody's like, man, that guy's a lazy fool, do you know? And then that lazy fool, in an emergency, in an earthquake, in something, they become the smartest person and the first person out of the room. I'm telling you, the world in front of our eyes, it is real enough to communicate. It is not real enough to know absolutely. Now, a person has to, you know, I said this to my brother actually yesterday. You know, I was talking to him about this whole like Mr. Within vision and all that. And I was telling him that it's pretty much like the major ideas that I've kind of aligned truly, I think the Mr. Within idea is here for really the archetype, the values that are aligned, is one, you need to find the most advanced power. I don't care what you are, what format you're in, whatever position you're in existence. One of the great tasks of existing as a conscious agent in a massively unknown system and world is you got to figure out the power source. Okay, most people have figured out the power source for their body, right? That means their body gets nourishment. It's like, yo, man, is that burger a power source? You know, or is that vegetarian bacon a power source? You know, but what it is it's a physical power source. Yes, there's certain physical, we exist as a physical entity in a certain physical condition, and it's important to play like a part of physical reality is like, all right, how was I a physical being during my lifetime? You know, so there's a physical, you because you have found the physical power source, food, that is why you continue to exist. Do you know? But check this out. What about the power source of the mind? What about the power source to that idea of yourself you're acting as every day? Have you wondered about this? Do you know? And for me personally, I don't know how, like I feel souls bring a vibe with them, and kind of like spirituality is kind of getting a sense of your own vibe. Do you know? And you really can't do it around others. You gotta. It's like moments where you're alone with yourself and the whole existence. You know, it's in those moments you kind of get a sense of what kind of being you are. You know. But for me, I was like, wait a minute, something's missing out of the day. I'm still talking about the purpose for the power source of the mind. Okay. So you got to feel that you don't have a sense of honor throughout the day. This, I'm not calling you dishonorable. I'm not calling anybody on this planet dishonorable. It is so honorable to even exist at all and to move at all. But I'm saying that it is the honor that is missing. That means it's like every day you wake up, you feel out the day. There's a feeling missing. Okay, that should be here, but it's not. And that's really the power source of the mind, is when you serve something bigger than you. That's it. Something more important than yourself. Your mind stays healthy. If your mind is not serving anything, it will destroy itself. The ego breaks itself. It does if it doesn't feel like a king. It destroys its own kingdom. Do you know? Now that power source is purpose. Purpose is based on what? Based on the vision. Vision of what? The awareness you have. So what have you seen so far? You know, there's people on this planet I know. Some of them are like parents. Their purpose is like their young children. Do you understand? You know, there's some people who, for example, there's a person talented in, I don't know, astrophysics or something, do you know, or aeronautical engineering or something. Do you know? That means they have a specific an understanding of something that very few humans do, and they serve the value their own service generates. That means I'm kind of like, serving this archetype of Mr. Within and this podcast. Okay. Now then I'm hoping that after I die, this podcast, like I will still be giving talks, even though my physical existence is no longer here. Do you know? Sometimes when I look at myself, when I think about myself, I think of like, man, like I'm such a funny, like it's so funny what I'm doing. You know, I think at the end of it, in the afterlife, everybody's gonna be just laughing and high fiving, and just like, yeah, man. It's like, yo, this guy had the audacity. They're like, this guy had the audacity, to, in some sense, look at his species and tell his whole species, hey guys, why are we letting ideas own us for the rest of our lives? Why don't we realize that we are unknown beings? That means it took me a while to truly realize everything I had considered known or I knew was in an unknown place, yo. It's happening in an unknown place. We're in the presence of the unknown. It is really about vision, I think. I think that the true nature of it is, um, today in 2025, like it's still on my like, tomorrow, let's say for my 34th birthday, I still haven't received, the gift I want. And the gift I want is the most advanced civilization, the most advanced human activity on earth. You don't understand. Because we've made the world so small, we're so irresponsible of it. Children are irresponsible because they don't have awareness of the nature of reality. Your task as a human being is to not just make yourself real for you, but to make your species real for you, to understand that there is a value to you hidden. To me, everybody is living for a purpose. Your mind needs a purpose. Now humans have an ability to make each other a purpose. Somebody can become your purpose. I'm not even kidding. Humans can be your purpose. A majority of jobs are actually, their purpose is to serve the human experience. You know, People may look at, like, I don't know, a coffee shop barista and be like, yo, that's not advanced, anybody can do that. And I'll tell you, the advancement is in this extent of the service. Like, if they tell me, hey man, there's a guy who has a hot dog stand, do you know and for 20 years, this guy and his hot dog stand have been like beside a metro, a subway, right? And that guy's barely scraping by, and living, and then there is some, I don't know, next level billionaire who just has one conversation and makes lifetimes worth of money, you know? And so, if you ask, is somebody who made a deal and made money, is that a bet? Is that a more advanced, or that dude who has a hot dog stand? And I'm telling you, that dude who has a hot dog stand is a way more advanced soul. Why? Because aside from the value of the product he sells and his business, forget the business, he is existing in people's lives every day. He is existing as the background. There were hungry people who came home, didn't have food, and that guy's hot dog stand was there. That guy became a part of people's destinies. So do not, just because it doesn't get paid much doesn't mean it's valueless. That's the time we're living. We're living at a time where there is a monopoly on the value of actions, but there cannot be a monopoly on the value of existence. Are we where we are is a question that is asking you, are you bound by the condition, O unknown being? You're an unknown being, all of you, even me right now. Everything we know is a simulated condition. Me being like, yo, guys, I'm this, I'm that. All of that is a state of mind. There will come a day where you will realize your whole spirituality that was centered around the idea of a human on a planet, a character in a story. How will you respond? What will happen to you when you realize you are not a character in a story? There is a part of you viewing this world from beyond you. I'm not even kidding. There is a version of you that has never made a mistake. There's a version of you that knows exactly what is going on. But that version of you cannot be conditional. And so, what is going on, if I could explain it in the simplest way on earth, what's going on here is that, imagine there's 8 billion beings in a box, they're inside a box. 8 billion beings inside a box. Now, inside the box, they're fighting. What are they fighting about? They're not just fighting about who gets what's inside the box. they're also fighting about what is the truth outside of the box. Now, this is going to blow your mind what I'm going to tell you here. This analogy is so perfect. You have someone like the Buddhist, the Buddha, okay, the yogis and Buddhists. What did they realize? They're like, guys, they imagine in all scenarios. I'm going to go through all the religions here, the ones that I'm acquainted with, and I'm going to explain to you what their strategy and solution has been to living inside a box. That means people are like, Mr. Within, existence, planet Earth, this world isn't box. Don't you say it's an edgeless world? I'll be like, the edgelessness is the edge of it, yo. Infinity is the edge for duality. You're divided between the infinite and void. Just think about reality. What is it? It's a space, something's moving in it. It could stop moving or it could move infinitely fast. That's it. This whole time, we're like, yo, that person's smart, that person's stupid. It's like no such thing. One of them access the awareness quicker and act it quicker. That means, I don't know, are just quick people smarter? It doesn't matter. The whole point of it is the nature of the depth of what you're being aware of. You're not here to just explore a world, or you wouldn't just be a human, you'd be a drone. The reason you're human is because not only can you have eyes that nobody else has, but what you explore, those eyes have the privilege of giving meaning. Do you know? And it's this bizarre truth, this bizarre reality. I don't know how to explain it. It's like honor and dishonor are there at the same time. Good and bad are there at the same time. The atheist and theist are both existing in the same world. Hilarious, you know? Endlessly hilarious. The atheist is like, buddy, God is your imagination. And then the theist is like, buddy, your sense of self is also your imagination. What's moving it? I'm telling you, you do not find the real earth, in my opinion, until you realize truth is beyond you. If you think truth, that means all the prophets, none of them came and said, I am. I'm sorry, I should say it differently. Going back to the box analogy, okay, the Buddhist is like, yo, man, the emptiness inside the box is the same as the emptiness outside of the box. And we're like, all right, Buddha, you got it. You got something, And no, guys, Buddha's a blessed being. But I'm telling you, he is not, it is not the full picture. That means, how there's an analogy that there's like an elephant in a room and a bunch of blind people are touching it and each of them thinks it's something else. To me, prophethood, the prophets that have lived on this planet, they have revealed the relationship of the species with the higher power. Seldom is this said, but magic, which became obsolete the moment divinity entered the picture of human consciousness, the moment prophets came, magic just became meaningless. The moment Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Moses, in the Holy Quran, it says that he's like, God tells Prophet Moses goes up to God, like talks to God and says, God, I have a sin and, I don't have good street cred when it comes to the Pharaoh, and I also, he had a skin disease or something, and he's like, send my brother Aaron, Moses was like, send my brother Aaron, Prophet Aaron, peace be upon him. And so God says both of you go. Such a brotherly moment. Like, that was legit. Such a, like, I felt I could understand the grace of the system, And so Moses and Aaron go in front of the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh's like, who are you? And in some sense, they're there to give a warning. And in some sense, they tell the Pharaoh, long story short, the Pharaoh's like, yo, get all the magicians in town. See, this is the point of it. The Pharaoh says, get all the magic, get all the magicians, those people who can manipulate the lower dimensioned reality to appear as higher dimension. you know. And so all the magicians come, and in some sense they, I don't know, throw things on the ground, and they're like, yeah, Pharaoh, it's like, this looks like a snake, Pharaoh, right? The Pharaoh's like, yeah, that looks like a snake. You know what I mean? And in some sense, Prophet Moses is there, and this is such a goosebumpy moment, because this is where the system, the creator of the world, is giving a command. It is so different from the command of even the greatest generals on earth. It is a command to existence. God is not commanding a prophet. God is commanding his creation. It is very different, the relationship of the system admin to us compared to us to it. Do you know? And so Prophet Moses is commanded. He throws his staff, and in front of the Pharaoh, a living snake arises from the staff. Now, this is the coolest part of this surah in the Holy Quran, that it says that the magicians, those people who were the most demented, corrupt, manipulative, and let's say there were true hearts among them, but still the manipulative act, they all became Muslim first before the Pharaoh. That means the magicians, who were masters at deceiving reality, the moment they saw something come from above, from a divine command, they broke down. Their egos that held power in a temporary realm conditionally broke down in the presence of something only an unconditional creator can do. And so that was so enlightening for me. That's surah in the Holy Quran, because it was saying, "Oh souls dwelling in magic," it became obsolete, because the divine command behind reality is superior than the moderators you work with in the invisible. There's a dark side to everything, guys. I'm telling you. The dark side of Islam is not like violence, is not the cultural propaganda about it. The dark side of Islam is when beings have the wrong intent. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's like, I don't want to speak about black magic and all of this, but it's as if it's like somebody gave you a clean towel, and you can use it to, like, purify yourself, or dry yourself, from your inefficiencies, or you can use that towel to grab a chunk of mud and throw it at someone and think like you're powerful. You know what I mean? And thinking because your hands are clean, your act's hands was also clean. Not true. The human is a power. You are a type of force here. I'm making the argument that you're an unknown force. Can you guys hear me, by the way? This audio thing. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Anyways, where am I going with this? To me, the point of it is that when divinity arose, the ego could not act powerful. So humans on Earth, thanks to very great beings who arrived before we were born, we have access to the transcendental agency of this realm. It's a blessing. You might think God is an idea, but it never could be. And you will realize where your thoughts come from. They come from a divine field, and that divine field moves your neurons, not just your brain. It's not just from you move. You see, if the only thing that secular society has not done is to equate awareness and energy. That means if energy is can be aware, that's the proof of soul, guys. It can't be created or destroyed. And it's present. But anyways, where I'm going with this is that I said this thing about the box analogy. Okay. And so again, imagine that we're inside a box, and every ideological system has been a strategy to this, has been a response to this situation. Okay. So the Buddhists saw the emptiness inside the box to be the same as the emptiness outside of the box. Wasn't wrong, but wasn't the full picture. The Christian, or let me say it this way, the Christian saw that something, the creator of the box, from outside of the box, came inside the box and was one of us. Okay? Right? So Christians, you, like, I'm not Christian, but I do understand, and there's only one perspective I have that I can see Christianity be valid. But it's not, it's a dehumanized, it's not from, how do I explain it? See, Muslims believe that truth is beyond the box. Nothing in the box can equal truth, and God has no partner. Christianity is like, no, there was an individual soul, there was a being that was God itself. That was the role of God itself. Now, sure, from a humanized perspective, people are like, how could God die on the cross? You know, and in some sense, how could, in some sense, a human be the truth to all sectors of reality? Do you understand? Do you know? And in some sense, how do I explain it? That it's a condition inside the box. Now, from the human perspective, I cannot assume anything in the box is the outside of the box. That doesn't make sense conceptually. Okay. However, from the perspective of God, God can do anything. That means God not only can give messages to people, God can go and become a person, but that's from God's understanding, and it's not humanizable. That's why I say it's dehumanized. Do you understand? That means from a non-human perspective, God can do anything. And God has done. It's a will. This is God's will. This existence as it is shown. Little do you realize you have been living in the masterpiece of the master of peace, the source of creation, an original, unconditional presence beyond the conditions of reality. Do you know? So, in other words, as a Muslim who I believe truth is outside of the box, it doesn't matter if people tell me a human being on earth is truth, or if a being or an alien or anything. Imagine a shimmering humanoid being just appeared out of nowhere, helped me in all parts of my life. And at the end, I was like, who are you? And that shimmering light being said, I am God. I would be like, no, you're not. You're God sent, but you're not God. God cannot be reduced to its creation. In other words, it's like a conditional God. Okay, like Hindus who worship, to me these are mods, by the way, right? And and it's just because a person is behaving in some way doesn't mean their heart is not near the creator. You know, there are so many stories. There's this story I've often shared in the talks. Okay, it's not per se like a recorded religious story, but it's a story. Okay, it's one of those stories. Okay, it's not a religious story, but it's a story of that time. So back in the day, there was this church right beside this brothel, okay, in this small place, village or somewhere. And the second floor window of the church where this priest would sleep in was right beside the window, second floor window of this brothel. Okay. Now, this is back in the day, harsher times. There was no human rights. People didn't even consider human rights. I think they were just existing. And so There was this woman who was, as elegantly as I can say, a woman of the night. But what it means is she was forced into this. She was this woman that would the whole day go do an act that was considered very impure at the time, and at night come in front of a mirror and just pray, just hold her hands and pray to God in the mirror every time. That means she was living in existence, but at the end of the day, her heart, she would just come and call to the Creator. And now, guess what? On the other side, the priest is going and doing very, like, all the holy acts. Everybody who comes to him is like, oh my God, you sacred man. And so in some sense, the in the worldly life, the status of the priest was elevated, and the priest would act pure and do pure things. But at night he would come, and he didn't even understand him himself. He would come and he would see outside of the window, right, the woman who was like praying in front of the mirror. That means, like, do you know what that means? So long story short, something happens. They both go to the pearly gates. At the pearly gates, the guy's like, I've been a representative, you know of God on earth. I should definitely get it to heaven. you know and then the prostitute is there too. The lady is there too. Excuse me. And the woman is allowed to go into the pearly gates. And so this priest is not, and he gets enraged. And he shouts and he says, my whole life I lived for God. My whole life I did religious things. My whole life I tried to do pure. I listened to people's confessions and all this. You know? And the voice says, and then he says, she did all the impure things. Why does she get to go to heaven? And the answer was, the moral of the story, that she lived in an impure life, but her intent was pure. It would come back to the system admin, to the Creator, to the main power source of your soul you have not yet realized. The priest, his attention was on the worldly at the end of the day. Before he logged out of the day, he was still wanted something from the world. And it's not that I'm telling you you need to become an ascetic monk. I'm telling you that your intentions are suggesting your inner life. That means when you meet someone, are you smiling before or not? Try it out. It makes such a difference. Holy shit. Ever since, and the whole point of it is attitude is conditional. They've made us believe it's unconditional. They've made you believe you have a unique personality, so you stop actually thinking about the conditions your personality exists in. Accepting reality too soon can be like, I think it's criminal. Like, I think it's on some level, like, who knows? Like, if all the animals on this planet could talk, and all the beings, let's say celestial beings that existed either as fields or whatnot, Perhaps the true liberation of the human species is to play its role in its manifest sectors of being. That means today, yes, you're a physical form. Your purpose is to exist in this world, and keep it unknown and have faith in the system and live that way so you can still get surprised rather than trying to be a know it all and then choking yourself out. I'm telling you guys, don't think that knowledge is knowledge. You know how they say knowledge is power? The correct knowledge is power. The wrong knowledge is powerless. You become powerless. That means you have to think to yourself, really. Like to me, that's why I read it in days, guys. Like tomorrow, I'd have lived 12,419 days. Okay. And then I ask myself, what is the point? Not even personal. Not even personal. What is the point of existing in existence? Yes, we should not be afraid to ask these because civilizational intelligence will become all of our intelligence one day. It's so funny because so I'll say it again. The Buddhist sees the box as empty. The emptiness inside of the box is the same as the emptiness outside of the box. Do you know the yogis or Hindus? They're pretty much seeing like thousands of different terminals or moderators to the system admin. Do you understand? Christ to me is more like an experience with a moderator than the experience with the system admin. To me, God is not a conditional entity. If it is conditional, it is still for a simulated being. That means, like, if, like, see, the issue is not whether Christ is God or God is beyond conception. The issue is not that. The issue is that why how can you what is your response, what is your approach as a conditional entity? Like think about it. You know how like the younger generations, what are they fascinated by? Superheroes. What do superheroes have? Power and ability. They're able in ways others are not. Now I don't want you to just think like people like have superpowers. I want you to realize you're an antenna. You have always been. More than your thoughts. The day you could have more than one thought, you were not a thought anymore. So where does this go? Just a second, folks. Wondering about the true presence of reality, you cannot ignore your own self-limitation. I will keep emphasizing that it's all about positioning. In different positions you have different values, in the same way in your own eyes you have a value, in the eyes of others you have values that you'll never know, but maybe they can show. If you realize the positioning is that in front of our eyes public server, behind our eyes private field, that means it are all possibilities of existence already moving in a field, and our body is just the manifest node that can allow any possibility. In 2025 we were still biological organisms, and the idea of ourselves owned our whole moment. In the future we will not be this. You will identifying with the field of activity is more normal. What does that mean? That means people look at people and they're like, yo, man, that guy got into a flow state. Sorry, it's the other way around. The flow is the only state. There's a force. Like more than you are ideas on a form, you're a force that moves the form. God only knows the depths of this. That's why God is the Lord of the worlds. Only an unconditional being can be the awareness to all conditions. So there's nothing really to fear. This world, like, to me, what are, like, the clues, or like how the Holy Quran explains reality. It says on the day of judgment the sky will crack. In other words, we're in such a simulated field that this simulated field has no purpose other than to return to the original. So the point of being in the simulation is to return. It's like if you can notice God now, it'll be you're closer. And God is not an idea. God is a presence. You're going to be like, what do you mean presence? I mean, your whole life is based on your personality, right? But your personality is subjective. It doesn't have a physical presence. Your body has a presence, but your body can feel presence outside of itself. That means when I was younger, like I have a twin brother, he could see like auras around people. I could never see auras. I could just feel like there was something else in the room. I could just feel. I could just know. I don't know how it is. My intelligence is very strange, because I that's why I'm telling you we're in a commanded universe, not a chronological sequential one. Okay? You know, it's God given. Everything. The system has been designed for you to have a nafs. Nafs is the Arabic word, closest thing can be said to be ego. And so there is a self generated self, and then there is the unknown self. In other words, it's based on your geometry. Let me actually write this down for you. So I want everybody to kind of like look at the screen if you can. If you can't and you're driving, that's fine. So see, guys, we have existence. Two options. Existence equals real. Existence equals unreal. This is another way of saying You know, guys, I think I gotta go old school. I just have to like set up shop somewhere and open an academy or something. I think that's where it's all gonna head. Yo, if there's any billionaires listening, contact me. There's work to do in civilization. So, guys, see, now we have here the created, and we have creator. It's so important to understand this. Okay. So, one, what if existence was created and the creation is a simulation that is real? This is like a more complex way of saying what if existence is real. And then here we have what if existence is not real? What if existence is a creator, is a creator that is the original? Okay. So what if existence is a creator that is the original reality, rendering existence, meaning our existence is unreal? Sorry guys, I'm making a mistake here. So we are wondering, okay, pretty much what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that we open our eyes and we access existence. The meaning to this existence can be let's take it somewhere else. I'm pretty much saying, like, you open your eyes and all of this can be real for you, or it could be unreal. If it's unreal, it means it's simulated. It means there's a greater reality. That means pretty much you as a being open your eyes and you either think it's just this or you think there's more than this. So if existence is real, then pretty much I'm saying it this way, guys. If we treat if we treat what we see if we treat this world as real, um, it's way more difficult to explain and understand, and I believe access, than actually treating it as a simulation. That means your body's simulated for some time. The cultural programs are simulated in this way for some time. Do you know? And pretty much every person that is born, it's kind of like your hand is given. Like you can see the hand you're given. Like my hand I was given was that I was born in 1991. I've experienced everything up to now. I've been there in the background on the living on the planet just like everybody else. Anyways, what can I say? The only reason, like, let me tell you this. I'll make a prediction, but I think inevitably it will go there. Right now, because our inner realms and outer realms are divided by our moment, countless human beings have lived on this planet. The number, considering a 300,000 range that AI gives, is 117 billion years. That means, considering in the 300,000 years that human activity has activated truly, 117 billion people exist, and currently 8.1 people are alive, have existed, sorry. 117 billion people have ever existed, and 7% of those people who have ever existed are alive right now. You are 1 in 117 billion. And we think that's a big number, but that is a very small number because we haven't fathomed the forces that may march towards us. You see, it is the case that anytime anything advances, all the conditions that don't know how to advance or can't advance, they in some sense, how do I say it? It is pretty much me saying that the most advanced human species, would be prepared for, in some sense, an outer realm extraterrestrial invasion, do you know, and prepared for an inner realm, extraterrestrial invasion. The most advanced civilization is a civilization that its purpose is to figure out why it has blind spots. You have been denied an ability to consider the most advanced states because it's the paradox of wanting to fit in the world, but maybe you're meant for more. You know, in Islam, in Islamic metaphysics, there's this beautiful view. That means if a Buddhist, or a yogi had a conversation with a Muslim, the yogi would go up to the Muslim and say, like, hey, man, I remember all my past lives. It's like my, I don't know, billionth time around. How about you? And the Muslim and son says, I don't believe in past lives in this way. I believe this whole world is delusional enjoyment. And the yogi would probably agree, right? But the Muslim would say that before being born in this world, we were not in the world. That's the difference between the yogi and the Muslim. Okay? Where we were before this born, there is an answer. And the answer is Alam al Arwa, which means the world of souls. And in the world of souls, souls had a rank. And souls of the same rank, they got along with each other, and souls of different ranks didn't, or in some sense, reality functioned differently. And it's as if, like, you don't understand, like, this advanced intelligence agency of the maintenance and administration of souls. So think of it this way right now, that everything is God's will. And as a Muslim, I will tell you, go directly to the creator of reality. Don't take shortcuts. Don't talk to middlemen. Just go directly to the original moment for the secret that in some sense many teachers can't say, because if they did, they would not exist. And this is why I laugh, because I have never been a teacher. We have all been students of an unknown reality. We're not even students, we're explorers. Do not be fooled. This world is beyond the ideas of mankind. And yet we live through our ideas now. To me, one of the purest states is advancement. God bless him, my grandfather, before he passed away, I remember him when I was young. He told all his grandkids. He gathered them around and he's like, kids, whatever you do in life, choose the great option. Choose the greater option. And for me, when I think about that, I think about that in order to be able to select the greater option, one has to expand the domain of their awareness. There was this anime where there was this character that's like this Japanese comic book made into a show, and there was a character in it who had this ability called domain expansion. Okay, now we humans, like, unlike the fictional show, don't have that externalized domain expansion, but it is the idea, the geometry of the concept is very true, that everybody does have a domain, but it's the domain is who you are behind your eyes that nobody knows unless you say something. The hilarity of childhood is that you think everybody is seeing you. The hilarity of old age is you realize no one really saw you, everybody saw themselves. And there were those who, let's say, this is what I think really love is, that you care for the presence, the advancement of a soul. And I am that human being telling all human beings, quickly, don't fall in love, rise in love for your species. That's the honor, that's the feeling that's missing, that you should wake up and you should not just be you in a chunk of the earth that is just like how primitive it was, that primitive people put paint on their face. We've put paint on chunks of land and we're living in it, acting as if it's normal, when we are a species on a planet. You're all citizens of the earth, and we are all members of the human species. And so we are stewards of not just the world that we create, but the world that we are found in. To realize the true steward, that means pretty much the joy of life is you're living as a simulated being until you see something that is not looping and simulated anymore. And then there is no question of what your purpose is. The only command the soul truly knows: go forth. And it's this power in the middle of the void, That means there's a way to look at this world and be like, it's nothing, yo. It's in the middle of emptiness. It's in the middle of nowhere. And so, yes, we can allow, nothingness to be our emperor. But there are those who rebel. They're like, how can it be empty? I am standing here. There is something that moves beyond my body, beyond my words. The soul roars in the unknown. All of you have. And so you will understand the system admin, again, I emphasize, has designed this world so you can never be perfect in it. Yesterday, I was giving a talk and my phone died in the middle of it. I couldn't continue the talk. But I was giving a talk on, is Earth like the lowest level of heaven and the highest, like, peak of the lowest hells? Do you know? And to me, I understand that it's so difficult to be a singular noun in a dualistic reality, therefore endless change. And it's very difficult to be identify with a duality when that duality can be perceived in the inner realms to infinitize. Therefore, your body may fear death and non-existence, but your mind doesn't fear non-existence. Or you can say it has two fears. It fears non-existence, but it fears something else. It fears that beyond duality, reality will not have conceptual meaning. Therefore, you can't be an ego. Therefore, the idea of self cannot maintain in the higher planes of this world. It is fields that are being alive before what's in them. And that is the divine command. That is the divine cognitive field. Oh, humanity. Oh, all those people who've been fascinated by the unknown and they wanted to make contact with aliens or higher beings. I will tell you, forget that. New age community. Honestly, forget trying to pierce the veil and go and talk to beings. Making friends beyond the manifest realm in front of your eyes. Your task is to, before in some sense identifying as anything, to go identify what's in other dimensions. You got to be able to. That means when we don't know where we are, it's very hard to believe in stories. However, the stories share geometry on existential design, contextual existential design, that make it like, okay, it's not just, it's systematic, it's a system. It's not like the world is alive. It's that behind every moment of nature, there's a divine command. You're in a commanded reality. That means you're in a world that was generated by a power that was commanded instantaneously into being by a power. You see, theologically, God commanded the existence of man. At some point, you'll realize you've been looping in your self simulated meaning, and then you'll wonder what else is there beyond yourself. You realize the limitations of access, but you also realize even though everybody convinced you that you were a concept in a fixed context of the world. I suddenly access context shifting and I realize why our minds are here. In some sense, not for us to identify with just an idea, that's an ability. That means, think of it this way, everybody thinks a way we're using ourselves to be human is the only way that we're human. That's not, that's what's going on Earth in 2025. We the ideas of ourself have become our masters in such a way that if the idea we see does not fit reality, we don't care for it. And how cruel is that? There are people who they act kind in the outer realms, but contextually they're cruel because in reality, The moment you realize, this is the true fear of the mind, that there's infinite ways to look at this world. What should I choose out of infinity? And the mind fears this answer because it realizes it cannot know. This is why it doesn't matter. You, as a human being, need another agency beyond yourself to completely activate your human intelligence. And if you're someone who thinks you've been channeling like an entity and you think you're that intelligence, I'm sorry, you're not. It's not conditional. Divinity means that there's a higher power administering events. The self cannot own the meaning of the world. That means give up on finding truth for yourself and serve the true presence of what's going on here. It's an activity, it's an event. It's so superior and grand. That means if they ask me what is the most majestic and grandest thing in this lifetime of mine experience, it's when I bowed on the prayer mat. This would be the first answer. And I realized this world has a host, a system admin, and a higher being. And I acknowledge that every day. Even right now when I'm speaking, I acknowledge it. That this is not my world in front of my eyes. It is a world that conditions of me can be active here for some time. But who is speaking to you right now? That means if I'm someone who has declared that I know where thoughts come from, something that I don't know how many people have an answer to that, but I do, you know? And the same answer goes to what is living here. That means if you wanted to know who is speaking to you, do you think a biological organism is speaking to you? Do you think an object is speaking to you? Do you think a subject is speaking to you? Do you think right now I'm just one image in the moment, or am I a being that has access to all my memories? Am I a being that has access to different modes of my own existence? And so you're not listening to a soul like an individual soul, even though people think that is the case. You're listening to the presence of a field of activity that the expressioneer, the one who's communicating. So right now, like, how do I explain it? An idea does not own this voice. They're like, so what I'm trying to tell you is that the original state, at least for the next phase of human evolution, is a field of activity. All of you, your minds, your consciousness is existing in a field, and this field is commanded not by you, by the system admin. And the whole point of life is to step out of the your inner realms to some degree, be able to get out of yourself, right? And step out of this sphere of self simulated meaning that you're in the center of, right? And for a moment, begin to see how the system admin is moving reality, not how you are moving reality. That means that one of the most powerful states a being can access is the sincerity to be a creation in the presence of the creator and be like, all right, God, I know that in all these years that I have woken up and spoken about the nature of your creation. I know that what you see is beyond anything I can see, for I know there are other worlds. And I know that you have created this world as a simulated testing zone within a divine surveillance state. You think that it is you looking through your eyes, but I have witnessed the field, for the witness is the field. So you want to know who's living? You want to know who's giving this talk beyond the objective physical node and the subjective linguistic node? I am the divine commands of my creator. I am a creation. That means I can act like I have free will, but I was designed. My soul was designed. And my whole life has not been about, yo man, be successful in accordance to what culture thinks now in a his endlessly historic, hopefully endlessly historic timeline. It's like in the middle of me trying to live my own life, it was as if I heard more than my own heartbeat. I heard, Heard, I heard the heartbeat of the future generations. And you don't see their eyes. You think that the past haunts you. You think the past judges you. You think only the past to the present is where you extract value. When will you realize your future self is praying for you right now? It's like, what do you do when when the species is missing its honor for the vital life force of the day? What is more important, to take or to give? There's people who are like, I will conquer everything. Do you know they have the conqueror spirit? Do you know? And then there's people like this poet Rumi, where he says, before death takes away all that is given, give away all there is to give. That means there are beings on this planet being evil, being cruel, and these people haven't realized the big picture. It is so easy to be reckless, irresponsible the moment you forget the macro conditions of life. And if you are a soul in this world and you don't know what to do, in an advanced civilization, the civilization will find you. It's not about the good and bad. It's the good and bad to stop fighting and advanced realities ushered in, because the only thing that is keeping us civilized is our intelligence. Like, it doesn't matter even if you're a kind person, but if you can't be aware of the nature of reality, where 8 billion bodies but 8 billion different minds or mental positions in the divine cognitive field. Therefore, we are not just where we are, or we are where we are, but where we are is deeper than this. So today we think we're an idea that owns our whole moment, and we think we're that character in the story, and we have, because we're a subjective character in a story, we cannot ignore that life has to be a subjective world now. So everybody's living as a character in their own world, and we're wondering about what the real world is, and we come to the realization the conditions have been designed to introduce the singular point of consciousness that recognizes the dualistic mind. So you're kind of like a singular position, okay? You're like a single moment, but in this moment is displayed as dualistic. So, like, if your eyes are open right now, you can see duality everywhere, the duality of space and the duality of form, like the space in your living room, and then the walls of your house, and in the same way, the space between sentences, do you know, or the space between words, excuse me. So I have come to understand that we will bring forth the unity of the species. I see a way that it's possible by realizing the species has to be united on its approach to what's outside of the box, and then we orchestrate, reorganize what's inside the box. So as long as we can have, like, this is the healthy, I think this is what it means to be a healthy human being, you know. And feel free, guys, to share your thoughts in the comment section. I may not respond to all comments, but I see all of them. It's like today we can say, what are we living for? But in the future, it's going to be like, what shall all of life position next? I don't know how to explain it. Like, to live as a field, I know it as an inner realm being. In my outer realms, it's very difficult to explain to a form the negation of itself. You see, it's designed that God is like, I'm not going to let you humans see like the edge of the cosmos, right, with your eyes, but I'm going to let you guys get smart enough to be able to study the human body and see what sort of next level design work and let's say beyond human understanding craftsmanship has gone to just the biological human function. Do you understand? Just the way this world is designed, guys, I say it, it's too designed. It's too designed. So we know fundamentally that the purpose of human consciousness has to do with form and the management of form, right? And to the discovery of the true, what really administers this reality. I'm pretty much saying, beyond your free will, who are you? And you realize there is no individualism. When you realize the individual's meaning arises from the context it's in. That means people who are depressed or people who have trauma, what does that mean? That means a past context is bypassing what they can be in the present context. And sometimes decisions have to be made. Sometimes when you decide things, reality gets beautiful organization. I don't know how to say it. Because the ultimate response for human beings in the middle of nowhere, they're like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm going to do something, you know? We got bored of the unknown. We created the known, and now we're getting bored of the known. And Mr. Within's like, guys, what about the unknown? For me, excuse me. In the presence of the original power and the original being that was the presence of the world before there was ever a world, we as simulated beings that have an original component, therefore we are users again inside this existential system. As users in this system, there is a system admin beyond the system. There is created moderators, and we are created users. Islam tells you to go to the system admin directly. Christianity tells you to go to a specific moderator. Hindus believe that there's like millions of moderators, you know, and there are users living that they don't even care about moderators or system admins. They're just here to have a user experience. Like some people are more comfortable not knowing, and some people are actually uncomfortable not knowing. These are different souls. Are you bored of your life's meaning looping, or are you wondering about what else is there? What would your most advanced state of being do right now? Like, imagine this is what I do all the time. I wonder about if there was a more advanced version of me, what would it say? What would it do? And sometimes I actualize it. To me, if you don't have your macros in order, there's no point of trying to get the micros in order. Similarly, I guess that has nutritional value. Like, aside from that, I'm telling you, in philosophy, from a conceptual, ideological perspective, you gotta have a sense of what the macro condition of your existence is, and then it makes the micro condition of your life easier. You know, and as an overthinker, you're like, why are you like, assigning yourself to a system admin, Mr. Within? And I'll be like, guys, you don't get it. We didn't create any of this. We didn't create this world. You didn't even create yourself. You're just experiencing yourself. You don't know what creation is like. You know what experience is like. In the outer realms, you have a conditional experience of creation. Therefore, we are not the creator, we are the created, but two lower dimensions, we are like the presence of the creator. Like a human being going and like, I saw a human being take like a baby koala or something, right, from the ground and give it to its mother. And the mother was like freaking out, but then grabbed its koala and was like thankful, right? And I'm like, to that animal, we were the presence of God. That human being, that guy who cut the plastic out like plastic soda holder like from the neck of the turtle. Do you know that guy? Do you understand? Like legit was like the presence of God in that dimension. Was like legit an angelic expression. Do you know? To me, it's funny. Like there's people like you. Pretty much, they have this. Like the world should know. I mean, the states should know that it's like I think we should all know that the more village and unupdated sectors of all nations, the more, I'm sorry, racist they are. That means in the middle of this, we're like, yo, man, are those people racist? No, are those people? No, no, no. It's just the fact that the beings that cannot comprehend different views, they are like the uneducated. How do I explain it? Education is all about you have accessing different views to look at reality. Being uneducated is only rendering things with one view. To advance civilization means that you have to be the most advanced being you know. But you can't know the most advanced being you will be unless, like, the next chapters of human evolution are collectively activated. And I guess as a very shy, introverted person, I was. And then I started giving talks, and I'm like, okay, I can't say I'm shy anymore. But I still do feel like there's a design to things, guys. You don't get it. If you were just a designer, if you just looked at the geometry of existence, you would discover that there's a higher system administrative force. There's something happening behind the scenes. Legit, it's not a photograph on a wall. That's not who you are. You're a character in a film, and your method acting as an existential simulated condition. So right now, more than I am this body, I am the awareness to everything that's in this moment right now. I am that which gives it meaning. And if people are wondering what did people call the mind before they used that word, they had in the more ancient traditions, guys, or let's say in classical illuminationist theory, they have this view that the mind is actually the spirit, and the spirit is the shadow of the soul, and the soul is the shadow of God, or shadow of the whole world, and the whole world is the shadow of God. Or there's something in let's say the soul is the shadow of God. I'm not saying this is just geometry. I'm just sharing this for its geometrical value. But I'm pretty much trying to explain to you that they had to assign meaning to activity that they could not comprehend. Because this activity didn't start from them, we cannot be like, okay, like back in the day, imagine like there was a person walking a direction and then wind hit them, and they're like, okay, I gotta walk that the direction the wind's taking me. To them, they felt they were being nudged by a higher power, but it was the wind hitting them. Little do we know that is still the higher power's nudge. But anyways, the point of it is, it's about it's about epistemology and ontology. Epistemology is like, what does it mean to us? Ontology is what is it actually, like, regardless of us. And most people don't have an ability to have to function in an ontological context. They're functioning in their own personalized epistemological way. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you ignore the ontology of the situation, you're forgetting the limitations of the human experience. That means if I come and say I'm limitless, guys, they'll be like, no, you're not. Everybody dies on here. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know, but the limitlessness is in the inner realms. In the inner realms, I can imagine, like I've tried this so many times. I've imagined like an apple like hovering in the air, and I've managed to keep that apple hovering, see that apple hovering in the air, without gravity acting upon it. That means, like, this is what I'm saying. When your eyes are open, you're seeing the outer realms. It has a certain function, structure, certain laws, natural laws, and in current civility, invisible laws. Certain constant invisible laws. Okay. But if I tell you close your eyes and imagine again like an apple or a flying car, the reason when the car, that flying car in your imagination, means you have access to take the things you see in front of your eyes to a state behind your eyes and have them move in more unconditional ways. That means I could see a Bugatti, and then I could imagine if I was giving the lecture inside a Bugatti, what it would be like, what the audio system would be like, do you know? So I'm telling you, the mind has an ability to access a fixed reality, and in a reality that is not fixed, probabilize it. This is all to show that the system admin is beyond one mode, one sort of view. That means there's 8 billion different human beings. To some people, deeply minded people, I gave the 10,000 talks the moment 10,000 people heard my talks. That's like when I gave 10,000 talks, because that means even if I had given one talk and 10,000 people heard it, that would be equivalent to like 10,000 talks, because every one of them, because of their different identification with the idea that owns their moment themselves, the idea of their self that owns their moment. I'm pretty much saying that do not fear a condition of life. That there is something within us that seeks the original, is exploring the simulated conditions of reality to discover the original. So to me, like I'm saying this in the most respectful way, all souls are here to discover their original command. And you realize a higher power, a power beyond our understanding, has not only administered what existence would look like, but also how we would be intelligent in existence. In other words, there's something true within you that looks in front of your eyes, looks at this world, and wants to discover something true out there too. I know, guys, it's like it's just how it's just the era in history we're in. Like more than the species, like the depression statistics are raising on the planet, more than that's going on. Like, guys, I know we've been living behind our eyes, in worlds that nobody sees other than us. And we've been hoping for the world in front of our eyes to understand us. But I will tell you the truth, we're not designed to agree or understand each other. Human beings are all, you're not all clones. We're 8 billion different designs. Everybody has a different barcode, DNA code. In other words, what does that mean? We are here to be different formats of the same form, the human form, and to function the same way. That means we can only be united in our behavior. In our existence, we're all different beings. How we are behind our eyes that nobody knows is different. Like the viewers, like you guys know how you feel about these talks. You don't? Do you know how I feel about these talks? To me, it's like I'm this. Like when I sometimes have this ability, ever since I heard this beautiful metaphor of, they're like, "Yo, man, be like an eagle," and people are like, "What?" And they're like, be like an eagle. Don't be just a being that is limited to one branch of understanding reality. Fly into the sky and see the whole forest at once. So I do have a sort of very far exterior view of myself as a being, and I can tell you from that view, it's like from an unconditional viewing things neutrally before having any opinion on it view. I kind of see myself as this introverted, again, this kind of like soul that was like not activated. Okay, and I see myself as this soul that was like, man, we want to advance civilization. I think my subconscious knew it before I consciously did. That it was as if like my soul chose the strategy of using the fourth dimension to convey messages to that which is beyond the third dimension. So, in other words, it's as if like it's like I'm trying to create 10,000 moments, okay, where I was wondering about it all. Do you know about the most advanced state of possible being? Do you know? Because for me, Mr. Within is an archetype that for the human value is the backups, it's not just a backup system, but it's also like Mr. Within, it's an archetypal position, it's not a person. That means in any civilization that is about to advance, there arises a Mr. Within. There arises a soul that discovers that all souls are standing in a different way. Just like how do I explain? Like the first, I don't know, ape who was like, "Yo, guys, when you stand on your 2 feet, you don't smell dirt anymore." And it was like it was revolutionary. And everybody's like, "Look at that weird ape." That guy was weird until everybody was standing on 2 legs. There was everybody wore a top hat until some dude's like, "Man, I like, I don't want to pay for a top hat." You know, some dude was like, "Guys, why are we putting this on our head all day? Like, let our heads breathe." Like the head breathing movement began. You know, let our heads breathe. Let our heads breathe. And the parliament was like, "What do we do, man? It's like our hats are the only thing changing us from like keeping us civilized." You know, and meanwhile, this was happening in France. Everybody was wearing these next level white wigs, and they were like, "Horty," Everybody had the same sense of fashion, so they all felt unified by hairstyle. Like we got it. Like there has to be like PhD theses on this, right? that it was the idea of everybody having the same hairstyle in court unifying them somehow. Anyways, are we where we are? Where we are is not just one mode of reality. In 2025, again, it's easier. I have not seen a human. I have not seen anybody on this planet, and I've seen very aware beings and smarter people than myself. And I have not seen anybody who understands this presence of the field of activity in a way where they're not looking to be an idea all the time. That means, have you ever thought about it that the idea of you, like right now, whoever you are, this idea you have of yourself, because your attention's on it only, have you thought about it that the idea of you is eclipsing you from the real reality of what's going on here? Because to me, there's something more important than me. It is, why do we have minds that can live ahead of our bodies? Why has God created an intelligence that can imagine flying cars even though we haven't created them or commercialized them yet? People don't understand. Even cultural programs don't understand that you must find the honor of presence. You see, we are different beings, but we're present in the same world. Just like those French politicians wearing with the same white wig, you know, curly wig, you know. Like, that was such a genius move because it also represented the feminine energy in politics. It's crazy. Actually, I think people don't understand how crazy French politics is. I think I'm gonna, like, if I ever major in history, I might actually really get into French politics. I know somewhat of it, but I know that I'm not French, so I know I'll never understand it truly. It's like I was just that young Persian kid who wanted to be a Frenchman. Like, what the fuck? Just, excuse my language. Excuse me. In the presence of the system admin, Rabbi Gfirli, which means, my Lord, forgive me for all that I am conscious or unconscious of. For I am your creation, in your creation, wondering about why it is created in such a way. And my findings have brought me to the realization that your command and will is so superior that when they say life is God's will, they don't mean just like what happens or what decides what happens. They mean that God's will is the reality. That means you are in the created position, and then you realize the created position was created. You realize it was created beyond you. You didn't create the moment. You are, however, the awareness that can generate meaning to it. And I'm telling you, when you realize there is no you in that sense, it's a state. That means it's like being human is a state in existence. Like, that's a fair statement. The true reality beyond our ideology. To expand the domain means that there is a hidden value to what you see behind your eyes, and it's always more. Like, when I give these talks, I'm perceiving something in my inner realms and I'm converting it through language into the outer realms. But in the future, everybody will be conscious of the inner realms. The inner realms will be as normal as the outer realms, the actuality of it. And you will realize, like, today you ask, who are you? There's like a person shows the other person their ID, right? But when the future, when if they ask you, who are you, you are rendered as a field of intelligent activity. That means as civilization advances, the burden of the responsibility of self collectivizes, it integrates. That means today you're just responsible for the in singular object and the singular subjective position. In the future, you're going to be responsible for the field of awareness where all this activity is happening. And then you'll understand why I'm saying when you live as a presence, reality is higher resolution. That means when you see someone that you don't have an opinion on them, you're watching how the moment is presently moving. It's fascinating if you do this. But usually when people see people, it's like they go back into the room they've built with them, you know. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. Are we where we are? Wonder about that and give me your answer. How does that sentence come across to you? And an intelligent field of activity, a divine field, it's like when it means that you realize that your body was limited to natural law, but your soul is limited to divine command. That means when you try things and you fail, sure, see them as failure. Sometimes the failure is a way to filter. It's like those people who truly deserve don't give up. But sometimes the failure, if a person does give up, it means that the system's redirecting you. The system is alive, but the system has a command center. The center is beyond the human plane. So far, theologically, we know that there's 7 heavens. So we know that there's 7 superior realities. We're like in the middle. And then we also know there's 7 lower planes as well. This is why 14 is a very important number. Do you know? But there's 7 higher realms and there's 7 lower realms, and we're in the middle. Now, I don't know if we're the 8th middle realm or we are like the highest realm of hell is, and it's like the lowest heaven and the highest peak of the lowest hells is like the same world. I don't know. See, where I'm getting at is that I'm saying our lives, it's fair to say it's a function, right? Like you're a functional being, and your functions occur in regards to how you valued your moment, and then decisions you make, and decisions are future selves you've accepted to be. That means, what is willpower? Someone in their inner realm saw themselves capable of doing something. That's willpower. Something moved. That means if imagine, like, I've seen videos of this. God bless these angels, right? I've seen videos of, like, I'll be honest. I'll tell you the video I saw recently. It was this. It was just came in the Instagram feeds, reels, and all this, and it was this guy in India. Do you know? I've seen 2 videos like this actually. One, I think, was in Lebanon, right, where this woman runs with her child to the hospital and says, "My child isn't breathing," and you see this doctor just pray to God and do like proper medical protocol, and this kid comes back to life. You see, it's like in that moment that it doesn't matter how good or bad that being was. That being was the closest antenna to the divine command. You will break down when you understand. When I say higher power, it's not like write an essay on it level. It's legit the higher power beyond the ego's fathoming. That means this is the mystery of reality. As an unknown force, as an unknown, as an unknown moment inside an unknown world, we're wondering if we can actually know. To me, I saw this video, guys. It was this guy went to this place, and sorry, it was this forest, and this guy had a flute, and he was like some native dude, right? And he goes into the forest, and you see there's this next level wind blowing, and all the leaves are moving like crazy. This guy starts playing his flute, And you see all the leaves stop moving, as if nature, all the leaves were listening, as if that moment, the nature of that moment stopped to listen. And all the leaves stop. It's so bizarre. There's one or two leaves that are still talking like people in a crowd, you know? I wish I could, no, like I don't have the link to the video anymore, but it was next level. To me, um, when they say be grateful for life, it's kind of like you look at this system and you're like, okay, if I knew everything right now, there would be nothing to know. If I had done everything there was to do, there would be nothing to do. If I was everyone, there would be no one to be. And it is the unknown that is the brilliance in the design of reality. And I think it is so much more healthier and true to consider that we are an unknown intelligent force of life force, that is moving a position of life, that is moving itself as a life form in a known way. We're conditioned by societal systems and cultural programs to be known in a certain way. That means, don't think about it, it's not just like the languages, everything is a language, from mathematics to behavior. Do you know? And it's like culture is the language of accepted behavior. Do you know? And I'm like, man, when you see too many beings defined by culture, and culture updates and they become old, and they're like, man, I don't know how to use a phone, right? And it's like a part of you is like, okay, it's because you assumed what you knew was based on then. You need to have an ability to neutralize your moment and wonder again, right? That means there is a conditional identity to an object, and there's an unconditional presence to the whole moment. The greatest clue, theological clue, is that God was not only the first in the room, not only God is the room, but God is conscious, is watching the room, is closer to you than your jugular vein. You see, you can hide from people and other separate consciousness, even mods, but you cannot hide from the creator. It is the most vulnerability. That means that when the word Islam means submission, it means submission of how the human ego knows what's better than God. You see, people look at Islam and they see like violent activities or unethical activities. Now, the whole point of it is that God knows. God is the real judge. No human can judge another. However, if that human has judged the holy book, this is where it gets too far. You see, to me, the Holy Quran, there is no way we can say it can be understood by anyone except the Prophet and the system admin. We can say, in some sense, however, through God's mercy, the holy book, which is a universe. That means you see, you don't understand. Books are universes, but the holy books, you don't understand. They are original realities. They have arisen from an original reasoning. It's not human reasoning. This is why nothing like it can be created. because an unconditional being explained reality that had access to unconditional awareness. What can we as conditional beings do? Do you see the situation we're in? So everybody's acting like they know what's going on, and we smile and we're like, yeah, sure, I agree, but at the same time, a part of us is like, buddy, we're all acting here. That means if I could give an Oscar, I'd have already given to all of you, even myself. Why? Because it's a performance. It's about how aware you are of what's going on, and then responsibility levels. Pretty much, to me, life is awareness and then being responsible. How you respond, how you respond to what you're aware of. Because I'm telling you, this is why. I don't know. I mean, some listeners have been hearing me for a while, so you guys know. But on some level, words can be deceptive. Why? Because they can eclipse truth. To me, language is pointing to something. The prophet was a messenger. What was the message? The message was that truth is beyond any man conceived condition. Therefore, our minds are also simulated delusional enjoyment, if the world is. That means if the world is simulated, anything worldly means it's simulated. It's of a simulated nature. That means you can see God through Christ. I can understand that. Do you understand? When I say see God, that means you can see that there is an unconditional power that is the original state where all conditions of reality have arose, wondering why their conditions can't explain that which is an unconditional cause to their conditional effect. You are in the presence of an unconditional intelligence. There's divine commands not behind every cell or atom of your existence, but in every moment there's a will. That means your free will is legit, like putting your hand in like Niagara Falls. Like the water, the true, like what's going on here is so superior and beyond humanizable meaning, which tends to be dualistic because you identify as a character in a story. But I'm telling you, we are intelligence. And the answer to where do thoughts come from, or who are we really, is that we are a divine command. Somebody in the chat section says time is of the essence. Culturally, I agree. Conceptually, I don't agree, because unconditional means it is not a conditionalized being. That means, how can I explain something that has no feature to explain, because it is beyond any features containment? So there's people on this planet who want to contact aliens, and there's people on this planet who are like, I want to contact the system admin, the original power that is the movement of every moment. That means, to me, being a human is about realizing you're present in a divine field of activity, and you are that actually. All of us are, because you're not your thoughts. That means the only things that are kept individual is your biological body. That's a node. And then the idea of you, your ego, like your name, that's a node. That's a subjective node. But everything else is a field of activity. Divinity is the realization that the node is not the owner of the moment's meaning. That yes, you may be individual, and as an individual and having an ability to connect various moments to each other. However, or be the connection of various moments to each other. But what I'm telling you is, the moment you realize there's an unconditional truth, how can you be satisfied by a conditional one? The unconditional is beyond the dualistic nature of the linguistic simulation that we're existing as ideas in. Therefore, my approach has been, I think in all realities this works out. So my advice to conscious intelligence that is individualized, or is in an individual form, seek the most advanced. The most advanced is beyond chaos and order. That means the most advanced action is an action that fascinates the most the most good being and the most bad being. It fascinates the depth of good and evil. That means it's like in the middle of good and evil fighting. I'm like, let's build an advanced civilization, everyone. That's the greatest argument. That's just what we're all living for indirectly. You're all living for a more advanced future self, a future life, more advanced future life. That is your purpose in existence based on its physical conditions. But what is piloting through your eyes and has been from the beginning, and how unknown that really is, and what your relationship with the unknown is, and in some sense, how much in this life, if you realize there is, your mind is an access to a state. What is experiencing the states is beyond the states. The eagle that flies beyond the branch that it was born on is no longer the eagle, the same eagle that it was on the branch. The moment you sectors of awareness, your the moment there's domain expansion, your domain, your inner realms expand. Like, how do I explain it? Knowing something is realizing there's infinite ways to look at it, so the knowing it truly can't be dependent on the analytical perspective. The point is, you can't use a part of the moment to explain the whole moment because it will always fall short. So you got to stop identifying as part of the moment, and then you'll start feeling the presence of the whole moment. And then, as the presence of the whole moment, then you begin noticing all the individualisms. The issue is that you think you're separate, and then you're trying to be a thought throughout the whole day, which is difficult to do because you have many thoughts throughout the day. But I think the whole point of it is, this is where if you get your macros in order, it's like the macro strategy is, all right, unknown self in an unknown world. There's a sort of knowledge base, like there's an archive of human knowledge, our ancestors' great achievements, like all those human beings that have lived so far. And it's about how far the vision can expand. That's the torch. It's the invisible torch our ancestors have been passing down. That means if somebody honors their ancestors too much, their ancestors are like, what are you doing? Look at the future. You think God has created the future for no reason? For us to think it's an illusion and ignore it? It's the sign of an advanced being to be responsible for its future. We're all living by this. That means you can't ignore what you've noticed. You must care to understand what you're standing under. Reality must, like, to me, let me tell you, this is, to me, like, this is the difference between someone being God conscious or unconditionally conscious of the unconditional, compared to somebody who's just worldly conscious. You know what the difference is? The difference is that you're not personalizing every moment. A religious person is like, yo, man, I didn't create this world, God did. God created me, though, in this world for having being capable to have access, a certain range of access to reality. Now, what is beyond this human access, in my understanding, the only through the preferenceless of anything I have discovered it. It's like there comes a moment where you're like, what is looking at emptiness, though? So today in 2025, I'm a human being giving a lecture to my, like, reporting back to my species, giving briefing my species. I consider it an act of honor. It gives me honor to report back to the species, to the advanced civilization. Because all the jobs that are like physical labor, I'm not even kidding, AI will do better than us. Okay. And what is left for us is the vision. That means AI has come into this world to allow us to solve bigger problems by it solving our smaller problems. You don't know. I see it in my inner realms. In the future, like if you see humanity like a bell curve, okay, do you know? In the future, you're going to see young children raised by very advanced AI systems. unmistakable AI systems, okay, that raise children in such advanced ways that humans are going to be like, man, this AI system is raising my child better than I can. And people will, in some sense, everybody, like, the bell curve is, I think it's like this, guys. I think from 0 to 30, okay, or sorry, from 0 to, let's say the species is agreed, from 0 to 18, you need you need you're still relying on the intelligence of others to maintain yourself, okay? Now when you see young children, right, like, what's the difference between a 5-year-old and a 50-year-old as human beings? If we were just from, again, as an eagle in the sky looking at the whole forest, looking at it, we'd be like, okay, a 5-year-old can't be responsible for its human existence yet. It needs the greater intelligence of what's outside of it to maintain it. That means not does an intelligence more advanced than you give, in some sense, birth to you, but also an intelligence more advanced raises you. Okay? Until you notice yourself as being intelligent. Whoa, am I being a person right now? And that moment appears. Where you consciously log into realizing that you are not only capable of controlling your body functions, that's basic, you're also capable of comprehending the nature of reality subjectively. That means the way people communicate to you, this in an advanced civilization, people will talk to each other as if they're talking to the most advanced version of each other. But unfortunately, in modern times, because everybody's personalizing communication, like, why is there the Karen archetype, in modern liberal culture? Because it's a human being that has not been able to discriminate that the values in its inner realms and outer realms are different. That means there's humans that they look at life and it means something to them and they're just satisfied with that. And that's not wrong, but I'm saying, how many other ways are there to look at it? So the response, the retaliation to the existential condition is beyond just being like, all right, I think I got the right passcode, the right idea, and the right view, and all right, I think I'm good. It's more than that. You're a living presence. They've conditioned you to treat yourself as a noun. It's been an unknown verb this whole time. The majesty of God. That means, for me, God is the most fascinating idea ever. And then after God, it's the greatness of God's creation that is the most fascinating idea ever. And religious people, even though the holy book, do you know, the holy book, let's say, because it was written at a time of war, has certain, like, war-like responses in it. But I'm telling you, we as humans should have this perspective that God truly knows the value. We humans can't judge other humans. Do you understand? To then go defeat them or fight them. And on some level, it's a paradox, because if everything is God's creation and we love God, how can we destroy God's creation? Therefore, religious people should be nullified of any ego. I don't care even if you think your ego's religious, if you think your nafs is like holy. I don't like that. That's not what's important. What's important is that it's all God's creation. How have we dared destroy it at all? So any religious person, right, has to, in some sense, psychologically be like, wait a minute, if everything's God's creation and I destroy God's creation, then I have destroyed what the source of my life, my power source. The sin of hurting others is the sin of disconnecting yourself from the system admin. Don't do this, guys. I don't care how religious you are, how much religion justifies, let's say, like, misinterpreted political activity, like human beings using it to misinterpret, and their egos having political activity. Oh, humanity, wake up from the linguistic simulation. There is God, but the God is beyond the box we're in. And there is a reason we're in this box. There's a reason we can't see beyond the box. There's a reason that there's a power beyond the box that is moving inside the box. Wonder truly about the position, and you'll realize that you're assuming you're a thought, you're the idea of you, your name, but that's simultaneously being neurons in your brain moving, and the neurons that are moving in your brain are moving in a field. Okay, now that field, it cannot be explained by natural laws because it's the divine commands, it's the source code. And what you find behind an object or the smallest particle is not geometry of other particles. What you find behind nature's form is a divine command. Take that in. Your ego code, what you find even beyond nature's code, is source code. That source code is unconditionally conditional. It's suddenly you realize it was never about being an idea. It was realizing about where we were truly. You are not just alive to yourself. Do you know you are present in a world where its creator is there? In other words, if we were characters in a novel, the author's still writing the novel, and in some sense even has written it in from our understanding. That means God is a being beyond time. The Holy Quran is so advanced. From one view, it is telling you everything's destined. From another view, it's telling you that based on your actions, your locational destiny gets decided in the afterlife. It is advanced in the way where it's a book, not, I believe, not just for human understanding. It is so important that simulated, it's like original. It's like the original, there's an original source code to all of you. That's your soul. But you can't know it because it's unknowable to the nafs, to the human, to the idea of you. In other words, Islam says the soul is the secret of God. It says that the soul is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means it's the command of the one and only true, might of the true original power of reality. I want to get back to this idea. When I said the difference between 5-year old, 50-year old, I meant the 5-year old is not aware of itself and the world yet, is not capable of being aware properly, and is not even able to respond properly, which means it can't be responsible for its action because it's not even responsible of itself yet. A young child. A 5-year-old child is, but I'm saying, like, you get my point. Now, a 50-year-old person is someone who has, in some sense, lived, like, many days on this planet, and they're aware of a lot, and they are responsible for their awareness. It's like somebody went up to someone, it's like, yo, how do I fall in love? How do I find love in my life? And the person was like, okay, are you loving anything? Are you caring to love your life? Do you even love yourself? You might not believe it, but I don't always have an answer to that question. There's moments where I'm like, is there even a self to love? Is it all just the true movement of reality, beyond human comprehension? That means it's not a far-fetched idea to consider that, all right, it's a positional intelligence. Destiny is a position. You're here to play out a role more than you're here to understand why every role is being in its role, in its exact role. But to me, I've understood that like these are the options. You either loop based on your brain patterns and what's comfortable to you. So you either try to keep yourself as a condition or you live unconditionally. To live in between is weird. I don't know. I've realized, because the moment you realize you can live unconditionally means that anything that happens doesn't necessarily have to be personalized. That means somebody says the sky is blue, and somebody can personalize that sentence and be like, wait, are you telling me that I don't think the sky is blue? They personalized it, you know? Or somebody could give a lecture and somebody could just hear one sentence and suddenly they're taken. They personalize the sentence and they're pushed into their inner realms. Do you know what I mean? So I'm saying that you got to have an ability to, of course, be a person, but also to realize there's impersonalized ways you can look at it. There's ways I could look at something having value that has nothing to do with me. You know, for example, let's say I like someone, and they don't like me back. I'm like, okay, what is that? That means their value system is different. They're destined for a different moment to exist to a soul in a different way. It's like the pathways. You begin to see the pathways. In Islam, they say there's three levels. First level, that this world has a host. There's God. There is God. Level two, you start seeing, not visually, even visually, you start noticing. You start noticing the divinity of the system. You're noticing that it's not luck, and it's not karma. It's like we're being watched by an awareness, intelligence beyond us. Therefore, the value of what happens is not based on us. As a religious person, do you know what that means? Being a religious person, it means that I could do something and think it was a good deed, or I could do something and think it was a bad deed, but the ultimate value judgment is not from me. It's like we're all here simulated, being tested to see how much we can notice the original was where the simulation began. In other words, it's the poetry of it is equivalent culturally for the modern man, for the idea of you. Pretty much you're here and you'll realize, like kind of like the game we're all playing, where it's no longer about good and bad. It's about original and simulated. Okay, that's the next way, evolutionary duality, right? So in other words, what it's pretty much culturally like this, that it's like trying to, you wake up and you're wondering if you're in the original earth, if you're your original self, if you're in an original world, if you have found the original power, if the most advanced civilization is an original civilization. To me, like technically, Islamically, the most advanced civilization is Jannat al Firdaus, it's paradise. But to me, the most advanced civilization, I'm saying the human, the most human advanced civilization is poetically a divine civilization. It means that it is not just responsible for its outer life, it realizes the fascination of its inner life. That this whole time you have been a moment that has never existed before. You're one in 117 billion humans that have ever existed. And sure, you can choose to loop in simple acts, or for the first time in your life, you can wonder if the context of your life can expand. You're no longer like, let's say, someone who works at a coffee shop. Do you know? You have become someone who, in some sense, is advancing a sector of civilization of your species. Do you see the vibe, the honor of it? It's like you're no longer just a podcaster on YouTube. You know, you're someone asking like deep questions, in an immortalized cyber archive. Like it's kind of cool how my talks are like, I hope that they, God willing, they outlive me. And we're reaching that time where we will see the advanced humanity soon. The songs of the advanced civilization will begin. I'll give it maybe 10 years. You'll see. Do you know what the songs of the advanced civilization is? It's when a species that's been looping nationalistically realizes it can identify on a species level and realizes it can identify on a planetary level. and then realizes it can even identify on a universal level. And then if you want to really get deep, you can identify as an unconditional moment of being. But it doesn't mean you're God. It means that it's God's mercy that you experience. You're not in a system where you are the highest value. And, sorry to say, spirituality is for those who they are still the main character. What's more, their sense of it's like, if you are more important than your world, don't expect you're gonna see other worlds. Or how would I say it? I should say it like that. I should say it like, what are you gonna do when you realize that in order to find the most advanced version of yourself, or to access the most advanced civilization known in human history, or to activate the most advanced civilization known in human history in this sector, why not? I realize I cannot do it because I am not an advanced being, because I am only as advanced to the conditions and the domains of my awareness in this life. That means it doesn't matter how advanced of a being you are. It's also about how much access you have to your advancement. You know, like if I was a billionaire right now, you'd see me like just start. You just see me start building an advanced civilization. I'd start building an advanced city, the most advanced city, and everybody comes to that city. Right now, we don't even know what the most advanced. Like I'm telling you, we're living at such an interesting time. It makes sense to me that life again is not about trying to accumulate all the information of the cosmos. It is, or and indexing it. It's not about that. It's more about like understanding that there is so many ways that you have value that you don't understand. But the whole task has been to become conscious in greater context that we have value. Like when you look at history, humans, like, we managed to step out of the food chain because we worked together. We hunted mammoths with spears as tribes. It was our collectivization, our unification, that gave us access to greater modes of living. Now modes of our unification, because they're making the point of life the idea of you rather than the idea of all of it. I think it's the might of the soul to realize, all right, I've entered the system. The least I can do is update the system before I leave. Like if you have no sense of honor, like that could be the like an honor for you. For me, it's like I'm not just living in front of myself. I'm not just experiencing my and existing, like for the first time ever in this way. I'm not just experiencing myself existing. I'm experiencing existence existing regardless of myself. The attention is that there is an unconditional system admin, there's conditional mods. Go directly to the unconditional system admin. Religion, what started from Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, and was concluded by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was in reality that, guys, there is nothing greater that can be said than truth is unconditional, and it's up to truth to make the creation true. In other words, more important than like life being like an equation to solve or believing in something specific, it's your relationship with the creator of creation that's being live streamed right now as you are. You're in the presence of the original power. You're not just listening to my talks, You are existing in a creative field. It's divine because it's in activity. The way intelligence activates is beyond human and understanding. So in the future, you're going to see the educational system doesn't acknowledge it because we don't know what there is beyond human. But you're going to see all the way it's going to be reset. Like if I was to build the educational system for a civilization, it would be one where learning language would be equivalent to learning the knowledge. Like you don't know. It's very complex to explain. I've explained it before in other lectures, but pretty much the idea is that there's all knowledge is going to be divided between the knownists and the unknownists. So the major philosophies are going to be unknownism and knowism. Okay, which means the species has matured to be able to acknowledge itself as an unknown self in an unknown world, and everybody to be cool with that, rather than us having to be a specific known self in a specific known world for a specific audience. It's like relax. We're like it's okay to not have all the answers, to realize it's not even like a fixed equation. It's a verb, it's a movement. We're not. It's like the richness of your life is based on the intelligent interaction levels. Do you know? That means they showed in The Simpsons, what was that dude's name? Mr. Burns, living alone, but being very powerful, having wealth. Do you know? And then they showed Homer being a fool, not having wealth, and but yet having a family. Do you understand? And it was like the cost of that dimension was this dimension, and the cost of this dimension is that dimension. So more than life being having to be dimensions compared, like why am I not like that? Why am I like this? You should be thinking of, okay, it's a field of activity. How many different probabilities emerge in front of my eyes? Reality is one. I see one probability, one existential. It's like existence is imagination. You don't need to imagine. It's like that's what finding yourself in a world is like. It's like, okay, I didn't think of all this, but it's all here, and I'm still thinking. And what is this thinking? It is the assigning, connecting inner events to outer realms, to outer events. That's what meaning is, like really. So wondering about your true presence, I'm saying there will come a time where I'm like legit trying to explain my inner realms to the outer realms. But in the future, it's like everybody would know the inner realms, and everybody would know exactly how I even gave the talks. If we identify as the field of activity rather than the specific node in the field. It's like your body is the only thing separating you from everything, isn't it? And then the idea of you is one way where you separate yourself from your body. And then that idea of you in your inner realms is way more malleable, and you can probabilize different actions before deciding on one action. Ultimately, you will realize the limitations of human free will, just like you can't be aware of the cells in your body, but you can move your hands, right? So similarly, we're not aware of everything. We have a certain range of awareness, but it seems that the purpose is not to try to just expand our awareness and become everything and think that's what being close to God means being God. No, you can never be God. That's the whole point of the simulation. That means the existential value is the effect to this being. That means to God, we are the effect. God is the cause. To ourselves, before realizing God, that there's a system admin to this system, there's a host to this world. This world has a host. All worlds do. And it's the same host. And that host is unconditional. That means it doesn't matter if humans on Earth were trying to understand it, or if there were like a humanoid species on like in the Andromeda galaxy, same evolutionary scale as Earth, level as Earth, kind of understand it. It's unconditional. You're gonna realize, and what's interaction in the unconditional, the most humanized way is that I could say is the field. So it's like right now, they said you're like a wave in an ocean. So you think you're the wave, but the ocean is the ocean. And I'm saying the divine nature of reality is how the ocean is a command itself. So it's like you realize all worlds are a command to the system admin. That means the host of this world is an abs. My father once said it best. He's my actual father. He said in real life, like he said, God is like an absolute being. I was sharing some views I had, like how I'm sharing with you, and he said it's like that's the behavior of an absolute being. Its intent and vision instantly happens. But us, you can have any sort of free will style intent, and it's not up to you. Moments happen as if they're happening in accordance to the conclusions of a greater mind. So we are in the lower position to for a performance, and when God theologically created man, God commanded man to perform in front of all creation, and all creation bowed. And that performance was to say the divine names, which is another way of saying man displayed that he was capable of not controlling or creating, but being aware, of communicating that he is aware of all sectors of existence. So we are the creation of the greatest power beyond fathoming. So we were created, everything was designed, is the design of this higher power. So the lower power is simulated in the presence of the original designer. The original designer cannot be conditionalized. It can't be conditional. The moment you understand this, not only you have understood every Muslim, but you have understood every human being was wondered about the most advanced state. That means if you move faster than the speed of light, it's time stops, they say. But when time stops, that means there's no reality. Did everything become a photograph? Did the film become a photograph if we move at the speed of light? But we're slower, it's a film. Like I'm telling you, those are conditions, and at some point, the condition, if you wonder about its advancement, is not conditional. So we praise like unconditional power. Look at Superman lifting like a building. You know, we're like, yo, that's cool. Oh, it's like unconditional power that you don't expect for a conditional looking being. You know, so we are drawn towards the unconditional. The unconditional is also the original life. So it's like some people, like, their wish is to live and get something in a simulated life. It's like some people, their wish is that in the presence of the original being in the host and the system of reality, they are in some sense found in the grace of the system admin, in honor of the higher power. This is why the lower power is an existential position to bow, because a deep question in theology was like, why did God need to create man? Because man would then need God. You don't understand the depth of this sentence. We are created in the Holy Quran, it says, God says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have created jinn kind and mankind for the sole purpose of worshiping me. That means Islam is telling you, yo, your designer, your creator, which is an unconditional state, original state of being, has created you to notice that unconditional original. That means poetically, in a modern fashion, neo-modern fashion, I can say, for modernity, the higher power is waiting to see if the lower power notices the higher power. Once the lower power notices the higher power, it starts living in the context of the higher power. When it lives in the context of the higher power, its psychology evolves like the metamorphosis of a caterpillar from a chrysalis, you know, and legit, like, it evolves from being an identity that doesn't trust the world and is alone and suffering, to be found in the intelligence of the original life, the original earth, the original reality. Therefore, I am speaking to the simulated manifestation. Arise, no longer just mankind. It's every moment in existence. The moment you remember how the system admin commanded you into being, not only the purpose of your life will be fulfilled, you will see the mercy of the staircase of heaven being real. That means there is something pulling us down, pulling the soul down. And then there is something that never lets go. And your task as a soul is to notice, this is for Christians, this is the Holy Spirit. For Muslims, this is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to any other being, secular or not, it's just the most advanced activity. That the world is not real to us, but we are all real to the system admin. As I remember somebody in a gathering say something profound, that they were saying that we humans experience like time in three dimensions. God is like experiencing everything in the present. But to me, God is beyond conditions. That's the point. It means it's not the edge of the world that's unknown. Truth is also unknown. You can make it known and try to live in some sort of moderated middle way. But I'm telling you, you're in the presence of the higher power. The way out of this simulation is by establishing a relationship with the higher power sincerely. That means if you don't know what to do, the moderators don't necessarily know what to do either. They moderate, but they don't know what to do. Only the system admin knows. That means I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me I'm a created being and my creator is online, like is accessible? And they're like, yeah, pray to God. And I'm like, okay, right? And so my relationship with the system admin has been a realization that how can I speak to an unconditional being? Like, what prayer can I say to an unconditional being? And so when I pray, it's more like I'm in the fascinating presence. You don't understand. When I pray, or there has been moments when I've prayed where you don't understand the countless tears because of my own inferiority of assumption that I knew what was going on. It's like the shame you feel when you're in the presence of that which is standing in a greater truth. Yet you realize the point of it is that we are a conditional being. We can control a certain range of the condition, but a majority of the condition of our existence we don't control, and we didn't set it up this way. So we have to wonder about what would an unconditional experience for a conditional being be, and the field of activity. So I'll end it off with something I've said countless times through this episode. Today we're an idea in a world room. Tomorrow we are the field of intelligence that is the movement of any world. We are divine command. The moment you understand that you were created, and free will means that God has already created angels, God has created beings that can't make mistakes, like sinless souls or sinless beings made of light, Islamically. And the human is made of clay, and the jinn kind are made from a smokeless flame. But I'm saying that God already has created angels, beings that are 100% successful And God has already created, let's say, jinn kind, or what we perceive for now as lesser beings, beings who have not been successful or unconsciously looping. And the whole point is God is the common denominator of all worlds. The unconditional state is the most advanced state because all conditional states are present in it. Go towards the system admin, the most advanced power source, and then go towards the most advanced expression in the outer realms, which means the most advanced civilization, because that's where your most advanced self would be living in. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the most advanced.